China has its own vast array of subcultures, just like any country, but more so because it has such a highly dense population. So it's only natural that there would be more and more subcultures evident in their society. One subculture that has been misunderstood in Chinese society is a small group by the name of Shamate. Now, I'm probably mispronouncing that, so my apologies, but I am not Chinese, so you'll just have to roll with that one. Shamate is a very similar to emo kind of subcultures, or Japan's visual kei, which is a Japanese fashion movement among Japanese musical artists, which kind of influence based in glam, rock, goth, punk and traditional Japanese clothing. And Shamate involves kind of spiking one's hair and dyeing it in natural colours, dark makeup that generally focused on the eyes and the lips, and kind of like shocking and statement making accessories such as religious symbols, dogs' collars, or kind of anything really that represented death and darkness. It originates from the English word smart, and its origin began in southern China amongst young migrant factory workers in the late 2000s and early 2010s. It was created by a man by the name of Lu Fuxin, and if I butchered that pronunciation I apologise, who stated in a Voice Asia video that he created it largely for entertainment because of how boring and lifeless factory life could be, where the only outlets for entertainment were the internet, video games and hanging out in the park and styling one's hair. He was one of the first internet users in the village in Donggun. He was heavily inspired by visual kei aesthetics, although he never listened to the music. He found the actual visuals very appealing and started mimicking these once he saw this style. Now, it peaked in the years 2009 and 2013, where it had up to over 200,000 members, which is quite an impressively high number considering these rural towns were quite low populated areas. So why do they become members of this community? Well, a majority of the members are actually factory workers. Some were hairdressers, some were servers or delivery people. They found life to be dull and lifeless, as well as having to work these 12-hour shifts 6 days a week. There isn't really much opportunities in these small rural towns where they're from, especially when a lot of them don't have any sort of education or at least a degree or finished school. And going to the city for work without any sort of finished qualifications made it almost impossible to get a job. So they're forced to kind of take on these repetitive, low skill, low paying jobs just to survive, and they get trapped in the boredom, lifeless work that's required in these factories. They believe that there has to be more to life than this. A lot of people suffered with depression because of it and would search online and find this particular Shamai community and would dress up and do their hair, and felt that it made them happier. It helped them have an outlet for their pent up tensions that were created in these factories. Like I said, because they live in small rural towns, they don't provide much entertainment, and they can create these visual, powerful impacts on people. And a lot of the times, a lot of people did it for a lot of reasons that guys like to do a lot of things, and it's to get attention of girls, to be more attractive to girls, and to stand out from the crowd. And one of the things that's really kind of noble about them is that they're not afraid to express themselves in this form, because it made them happy to express themselves differently than the social norms. In a lot of ways, they're kind of like almost like the furry community, in the sense that they're not afraid to be who they are despite what social norms might dictate. And it's noble of them to be free-spirited and not be afraid of what people think. Now, a documentary by a Chinese documentarian by the name of Li Yifan was released by the name of We Were Smart. Now, he spent 2 years collecting 915 first-hand video recordings from former Shamate members, as well as conducting full-length interviews with 78 of them. So according to the director, almost all the Shamate participants were second-hand generation migrant kids who were born in the 90s and hailed from undeserved villages and towns. In the documentary, one trend that emerged is that many of these young people were left behind children. Kids where parents had taken jobs in major urban areas, leaving their offspring with grandparents at home in the villages, and many kind of talk sadly that they only see their parents on special occasions, and a lot of them end up dropping out of school and try to find work for themselves. But because they cannot get the finished education, they end up in these factories, and these factories are quite strenuous. As I said, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day shifts, and it forces them to kind of find some sort of creative outlet to deal with the rules that life had given them in these rural towns. Public parks and roller rinks near these manufacturing hubs quickly became strongholds for the Shamate community. Groups of young people would gather in wearing tight t-shirts and low-waist jeans, and sporting the hairstyles with the varying levels of flamboyant colours and electric curls sticking out on mad different angles. And their style was intended to stand out, and it certainly did. But this also made them a target for the mainstream. Now the documentary also highlights that the issue with factories, the fact that more product is produced cheaply for the West, and a lot of kids have no choice but to work in these factories because they can't afford to go to college, they can't get the education to get them the big jobs in the cities, and some people as young as 11 years old are joining these factories using fake IDs because the IDs aren't really checked by people running the factories. So Chinese media tends to portray this subculture as mostly dropouts from schools in the countryside working in low skill jobs in factories or street vendors, that they take elaborate selfies with vampire-like makeup and live in cramped little old basements, and that they are seen as kind of the opposite of an educated, well-travelled, privileged young person. Like, one glance at Chinese social media makes it clear how alien they seem to their peers. Like, video parodies of their blue-collar glamour are very popular on Weibo, which is a very popular website. They use the term idiot Shamate, which is kind of a catch-all insult for anything gaudy and out there, and there's plenty of kind of anger and hate towards this community. They're kind of seen as outsiders, not as part of society. A lot of the time it seems to be that there isn't really any reason to have any issue with them. They don't preach, they don't attack people or hurt others. They just live in a slightly different way than the rest. So the reason for the hate to me seems to be somewhat unfounded. It seems to me that they are hated because they choose to be different, and the thing is, like, what's wrong with that? Being different is important. We don't need to be all the same, following every social norm out of fear or ridicule. Yet the Chinese media and the West is guilty of this as well. It feels the need to portray these groups, especially this subculture, as some sort of negative impact, as weird, as creepy, and there's no evidence of them being any of those things. And it's like any other kind of subculture that exists that doesn't follow social norms. The idea is we have to attack it. So despite the fact that they were only formed as a coping mechanism and creative outlet for their frustrations as factory workers, this subculture was given a bad rap for no real, genuine, motivating reason by the rest of Chinese society. They are treated as outsiders simply because they don't follow social norms. Even if it's somewhat strange and different, I can't really see any justification for the hate they receive. It's a shame, really. Any group should be allowed to express themselves on how they see fit, and it seems unfair on this group of young people who are only trying to make the best out of a very tough situation, only trying to find a creative outlet to deal with the tough life that they've been dealt, and like trying to figure out how to get past being trapped in these lifeless, boring, long hour factories where they work 6 days a week. You can't blame them for trying to find some sort of way to escape it. And any group that is mocked for trying to be different is something that I just don't agree with. And if you follow my channel, you know that I'm all about freedom of creative expression, and in all forms. Like, life is short, you should always do what makes you happy. Even if others don't believe in it, you should do what makes you happy. And this is why I think this dying subculture is misunderstood. Now, I say dying because the subculture itself has very few numbers than it used to have. They were pushed aside and mocked to the point where a lot of them felt like that they had to move on from it, that it wasn't worth the harassment they were getting. And to be honest, there's a lot more groups out there and subcultures that are doing way worse in society. But I admire them for being themselves and finding ways to deal with the tough lives that they've been given, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if it's something that people hate for the sake of it, then that is more a reflection on the people who hate them than the people that are just trying to express themselves in a different way and try to find their place in the world. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, I am grateful for every single subscriber. I want to thank in my last video I made about the furry community, I got a huge increase in subscribers, like 120 new subscribers. So welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for all the lovely comments about the video. I'm very, very grateful, and I hope that you can stick with me and continue to watch and learn about other communities like yourselves and other random topics that I do, and hopefully, you know, we can build a nice community here that's, you know, shows a lot of love and care towards other communities. So thanks so much for subscribing. Thanks so much for liking and sharing the videos, and I hope you continue to like and share. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. It's free. You'll be helping me out a lot, and I'm forever grateful, and I don't take it for granted. So thank you so much to everyone that genuinely takes the time to sit down and watch my videos. It means the world to me. I can't express it enough. I really enjoy making these videos, and I'll always have these as messages at the end of every video, just because I think it's important to remind your audience that you're grateful for their presence and that they're important to you. So thanks so much. So until the next time, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.